We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Ago to WDC, and it's me, your man Curtis Blow, from Dr. J to Michael Jordan to Kevin Durant, who leads the whole league in scoring. Wayne Wade down in Miami, making a name. I love this game. To the NBA Hall of Fame, slam dunks, alley-oops, and the give and go. Vince Carter, Superman, and my man Carmelo and Rondo over in Boston with the big three, captivating audiences across the country and ruling the world like LeBron the King. I say, man, Kobe sure has a lot of rings. I do my thing, not for the bling bling in the amount. It's the NBA Finals, so what's the count?
All right, good evening. Welcome to WDC Radio. I'm your host, Farron, Dozier, a.k.a. I am WDC. I want to thank you for tuning in to our Sickle Cell Trade Awareness Show, Aspects of Sickle Cell. Wherever you are, you can tune in right now on Atlanta Talk Live, New York Talk Live, and DC Talk Live. Go to iTunes under R&B LA Talk Live right now. Or if you can't watch us live, you can go to Live 365 and check us out there. I got a very special guest in station with me right here. You can see her. SCTD is in the building.
Hi.
Somebody's on spring break. Is that how you're on spring break?
Yep, I'm on spring break for 2 weeks, so I may come back next Wednesday.
Oh, God. All right, so she's here with me. Very important show for you today. We got some genetic counseling going on. I got a very special guy who I met a few years ago when I first started looking up sickle cell trait about what I had and getting research, and I found him researching, and he and I have been talking for at least 3 years, I would say, probably 4. And so he's going to be on the line sharing about genetic counseling and the importance of it. And also Dr. Bailey is here. So she's going to be also my expert, sharing in on the conversation, giving us some insight. And again, thank you for tuning in, listening in. This is my theme song. It's on iTunes. Got an instrumental version and a rap version. This is Curtis Blow, Young Ice, and my man IG the Great. Listen to that. It's 99 cents iTunes. Check that out. Support the cause. We'll be right back in 1 second.
Swag like Ali, you think you way better, homie, than I see. And then they call me Hitman, Tommy Hearn, and y'all be biting like Tyson. I learned, and I don't gotta be flashy in front of the camera. All I do is show my warrior heart like Evander. Never been knocked out, but I've been knocked down. Long as I make it to the next round, what's the count?
All right, as the crowd goes wild. What's up, SCTD?
Hi.
Again, I want to thank you for tuning and listening in. I just want to share that I'm still on the Zickle. supplements for my sickle cell trait, getting that energy back. I want to get back in the gym and play basketball. As you remember, I had Dr. Eric Coles here live with me. You can catch that show on YouTube. From March 4th, he was here sharing about his supplement, his treatment for sickle cell, actually for sickle cell disease. But when I read the information, I thought if it was good for the disease community, it's got to help me with the 1 copy of the gene sickle cell trait. So I'm still taking it, and I do have more energy. And so I'll keep you updated about that. If you want more information, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at IamWDC, and you can check out Zico at Zico.com. You ready?
Yeah.
What's up with you?
Nothing. Just chilling at home.
Yeah.
Kind of want to go back to school.
You miss it?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to get the show started. If you can bring on the callers, please, and we'll get this important conversation. We've talked about the different aspects of sickle cell trait and sickle cell disease, and so I wanted to have this first month really be about all the pertinent information from A to Z about sickle cell trait. We had a mental health provider. We had, she was a neuropsychologist, Dr. D, who's going to help me do some things around the mental health aspect of living with sickle cell trait and disease and how it affects our brains, lack of oxygen to the brain. So I wanted to make sure this first month was more informative kind of topics about sickle cell. And then next month, we'll get into some more stories about people living with sickle cell disease and the trait and how that's been showing up in our community. So let's bring on Dr. Bailey. Are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing awesome.
All right. Thank you for being on the line with us. Just so you know, you want to stay tuned. About 7:45-ish, we're going to talk about Advocacy Day. If you see me post that, we're going to DC April 15th and 16th. We'll be at Capitol Hill advocating for some bills and for some resolutions. And Dr. Bailey's actually going to talk about more in detail about 7:45. So stay tuned after the genetics counseling conversation. About 7:45, we'll get into Advocacy Day and for you to come out and support your community. Let's see. Is William? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great, brother.
Hey, thank you again for calling in all the way from New York. I appreciate you for getting the approval to come and share about genetic counseling with me on the show. It's been we met at least 3 years ago, at least, right?
It's been that, at least.
At least. So,
but
go ahead.
It's great to be on your radio program and talking about sickle cell trait.
Thank you. A very, very important conversation about the community because I have the trait, and SCTD, Dozier, she has the trait as well. So, William, introduce yourself to the listeners, and then we can get right into some of the importance of genetic counseling.
Yes, my name is William Millett, and I work here in New York City at Children's Hospital, the Cohen Children's Hospital, and I work with the community educating and counseling on sickle cell disease, sickle cell trait, and the related hemoglobinopathies.
Yes.
We're trying to increase awareness for the general public and acute awareness for those that are affected.
Thank you for sharing that. Again, I really appreciate you coming here. Can you let's do this live? My daughter here, she has sickle cell trait. She's 17 years old. We have symptoms of sickle cell trait because of our pain. We associate that to our trait, the pains that we have. I experienced the exertion injury where I collapsed and had rhabdomyolysis as a secondary injury with renal failure, vertigo, double vision, and which led to my arthritis, which led to me medically retiring from the military almost 2 years ago. Can you, William, can you just share what you would have a conversation with? Let's use my daughter as an example. She's not, she knows what I know as far as sickle cell trait. If you was to have her with you from the beginning, what does that look like when you're on the court sharing about genetic counseling?
Yeah, the idea about genetic counseling is that we understand the genes that we all inherit from our parents, both mother and father, and how they affect our lives, or in the case of a pregnancy, how they affect or potentially affect the life of the child
Exactly.
that the lady is carrying at that time. So that's where we want to get into. We want to deal with that risk, make sure the individuals involved understand what's at risk and what they need to know and what they need to do.
Okay. So as an example for my young daughter here with the trait, what would you share with if she came into your office? What would that kind of? I'll let you have that.
Right. Now recognize when we do genetic counseling, we're going to sit down with you, and you might be in different stages of life, right?
Right.
You could have just been born, and your parents brought you in, or you came in with your parents, and the idea is to explain and educate so that your parents are aware and are able to provide you with an understanding, A, that you have sickle cell trait,
okay,
and what that means for your reproductive future.
Okay.
The idea, as you know, any two people that each have sickle cell trait, and to be a little broader, if any two in a couple each have a hemoglobin trait,
yes,
all right, because there are other variations other than just sickle hemoglobin,
right,
that the combinations together will produce a disease. Now, I know you're focused primarily on increasing awareness about sickle cell trait, and that is a major concern because most people with a disease condition pretty much know they have a disease condition. Most people with a sickle cell trait condition do not know they have a sickle cell trait condition.
exactly.
So it's very important right off the bat. That's why we start with a newborn. In New York State, the State Department of Health automatically screens every child that's born to determine this characteristic, whether or not you have sickle cell trait or any of the other variations, along with a number of other procedures that they call the newborn screening program that diagnostically test for certain conditions which are present at birth.
Okay.
The idea is to reach out to that family, that couple, explain what that condition is and what they need to do about it.
Definitely.
Now, generally,
I just want to say, you know, by me being in this advocate and interviewing a lot of people in this community, a lot of families didn't get that information until the baby was born. You know,
that's a breakdown, but what you want to do is right while the lady is pregnant, and preferably fairly early in the pregnancy, you do that testing of both mother and father so you can provide them with an understanding.
Right.
Now, generally speaking, there are options you can take in certain states, not in every state, but a lot of people don't particularly want to consider the elective terminations.
Of course.
The idea is you want to be aware and knowledgeable regardless.
Exactly.
So you want to have that conversation early. Now, we're talking about your 17-year-old. Now, your daughter does not have children yet, right?
No.
No. No.
Okay. Well, the idea is this is an excellent opportunity. She's young, but not so young that she doesn't understand the details about sickle cell disease, health and illness, genes. You've probably had some familiarity with genes from school. So you tap right into that and explain how this, by having the trait, if the person you want to have a family with also has a trait, the risk to that pregnancy, which is 1 out of 4 for the disease, 2 out of 4 for sickle cell trait, and 1 out of 4 that there would be no trait and no disease. So the whole idea is you want to be aware of what that risk is each time you have a pregnancy. And that's what we would really want to impact the young lady with, so that she would be aware of that, so that when she finds someone that's suitable for her and she wants to develop a family, the idea is you have to have that person tested.
Right. And one things I want to reiterate that you touched on is that it's important, very important for them to know that the gene that they carry, it's important.
Absolutely. Every gene we carry has some role or function. We don't know what all of them are yet, but the level of science is advancing and our understanding is increasing.
Yes.
And as the more we know, the better we should act.
Right.
You know, that take action and do better as we know better. So right now we know about sickle cell. That we have pretty good and very clear understanding of. The key that a lot of people don't realize is that there are other variations, such as the type C hemoglobin,
Exactly.
and in combination, sickle gene and a type C hemoglobin gene together is a disease, sickle C disease.
Exactly.
And that can be just as devastating in many cases as the SS disease condition.
And
But
that's
there is hope.
That's one of the things that I had posted on Facebook. You know, I like to start conversations, and I started a conversation about, you know, the language of a lot of in the medical, even in the medical field. I guess Dr. Bailey can chime in on this. That SC is a mild case of sickle cell, and SS is the worst case. And I'm like, you guys, this language that you're talking is separating us because it's just sickle cell. Yes, you have a certain type of it, but really when you start to say, well, this one is milder and mine is less and yours is, now that creates a division. Dr. Bailey, because Dr. Bailey actually can share with her gene type. Dr. Bailey, please.
So my genotype is actually a little bit different as well. I inherited sickle as well as hemoglobin Monroe. And that's another very, very rare combination.
That's true. And almost any combination, almost, I don't want to say every combination with sickle hemoglobin, but most of them, the combination can produce very severe effects. In fact, as you know personally, just having the sickle gene by itself, with the other gene being normal, sickle trait, which should be healthy, can in some individuals produce some sort of effect. It's not as severe as the disease, that's true. So we wouldn't consider it life-threatening, except now we're finding that there are certain situations in the literature where, with better testing and understanding, we are finding that some individuals are having life-threatening consequences, but usually in extreme circumstance.
Exactly. Which is important. Also, I want to reiterate that, you know, when you gave those stats about 1 in 4, like those numbers, it's like a crap game. Those numbers start over with each pregnancy. So it's not, oh, well, I had the first child that had AA, so the next one is going to be AS. Like those odds start over from the beginning.
That's right.
You got to tell people it's like flipping a coin. It could be heads or tails the first time you flip it. And guess what? The second time you flip it, it could be heads or tails again.
Exactly.
It's the same risk each time you have a pregnancy. 1 out of 4 for the disease, 2 out of 4 for the trait condition, and 1 out of 4 for the normal condition. You're really trying to aim for that 1 out of 4 that's the normal, but there's no guarantee.
No, we don't get to pick what genes we inherit. We pass to our children, eye color, hair texture. We don't get any choice in those.
That's not our choice to make. That's correct.
So what would be something? I mean, are we done with this? The young female with the trait? Is that?
Well, now with her, the idea is primarily have the other person tested.
Yes.
The hemoglobin electrophoresis is the test of choice. To make that determination. So you want to determine, as Dr. Beebe had mentioned, she has a different variation, a Monroe, correct?
Yeah, Dr. Bailey, yes.
Yeah. So that's unusual, but you want to be able to determine if there is something, because the parent that contributed that may or may not have known they had that trait, you know?
Exactly.
So the idea is more aware, which you're doing a great job on awareness, bringing awareness throughout your area and throughout the country through your talk show.
Yes, thank you.
The idea is to bring awareness, get testing, know better, do better.
Yeah. And it's really creating that conversation. It's the conversation like you meet someone, it's usually, kind of superficial conversation, but we don't really have those deep, like your background, where you from, like where's your bloodline from. We don't really talk about that. We want to talk about the googly eyes and let's have some fun and go out and hang out. But not, that conversation really sometimes doesn't even happen.
That's true. Some health issue conversations can be a little challenging to start up,
Of course.
But it's important, particularly when you want to start a family, you've got to have those conversations. You have to have an understanding. When we do a genetic counseling session, in fact, we do a family history, and we question and interview you on your family's health status so that we can take a look at how other conditions are flowing through the family line.
Right. Very important. Dr. Bailey, do you have anything you want to share? She has her PhD in research, so I know she's.
No, you all have covered it quite well. I just think it's important for people to realize that, well, I say it all the time, what's in your genes.
Yes.
You have to know what's in there, the combination of what's there. And it does make a difference. And I understand what you're saying about the language, that it separates when you start putting it, one is worse or better than the other.
Yeah.
But it is important to know the difference.
Yes.
And that there are differences.
Definitely. Yes, definitely. I have nothing against that. It's just that sometimes it comes across, I have it's the mild case. And you can meet someone with SC that has more crisis than the person with SS. You may meet someone with sickle cell thalassemia that has, less or more crisis. Like it's an individual condition or disease or however you want to language it. It's an individual, so it affects everybody, differently, but also the results are similar because of what it is and how it affects the body. So that's just my conversation to help to disappear the ignorance about, the sickle cell trait.
We are the sum of our genes and a whole lot of other environmental and developmental consequences, but we've got to know a little something about those genes.
Yes.
And the more we know, the better we can make decisions to empower our lives rather than be the victim of unfortunate circumstance.
Definitely. Okay. So if you have a couple in front of you that have just been aware that they carry these two genes, what are some of the dialogue that you would say or share, because maybe they want to break up now. Maybe they're like, okay, well, you have the trait, I have the trait, I'm done,
That'd be
Well,
wrong, though.
that is a personal decision. Now, the one thing that a genetic counselor will not do is tell you what to do in terms of your personal decision-making
Exactly.
with you and your spouse. But the idea is to start that conversation based on health information that's accurate, current, and that you know what the implications of that are. If you can have that conversation between the two of you, you may choose to go forward, stay together, and have children, or not to have children. You may choose not to stay together. But that'll be a personal decision that you, as two intelligent, self-reliant individuals, have to make. We all have to make those decisions sometimes.
Yes. And my daughter said that was wrong for them to break up. All right. We have a caller. Let's see who's on the line. You live at What's the Count? You live at What's the Count?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, good afternoon.
Hi, who's speaking?
Merlin Sotelo, President for the Sickle Cell Awareness Foundation.
Hey,
how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully.
You have any questions for us or for the doctors?
Do I have any questions?
Yes.
Well, I would like to know if someone has sickle cell trait,
Okay.
do they have any issues, like if you have the disease? I mean, because I was told so I'm not sure, so I need to know.
All right. I'll share my experience, and then I have Dr. Bailey who can reiterate some of the findings about sickle cell trait. I can tell you, ma'am, that at 5 years old, my arm ached, and my left arm, and it would hurt like a sensation that wasn't like it was sleep, but a very irritated, uneasy kind of feeling. And my grandmother would hold me over the sink and run warm water over it. Was the only thing that soothed it. And that was 1975. And they told my parents it was growing pains. And so I just learned to live with it. And I can tell you that my daughter is sitting here, and she will be able to tell you her experience with the trait, because she also has the trait. So Deja, go ahead and share.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was real little and I used to have my feet would really hurt, to the point where I start crying. And my parents told me, my feet are just growing and they're just growing pains. And, finally when I realized that it's sickle cell, it wasn't just growing pains. It was it only happens when I'm really stressed out, when I have so much on my mind, or when I'm real nervous. I start getting this real tingly feeling in my feet, the bottom of it. And it starts hurting all the way up to my ankles. And all I do is I sometimes rub it to see if it works. That doesn't work. And then I would put a warm towel over it, and that would work sometimes. And there'd be sometimes in my arms when it's cold, when it's to maybe 40, around 50 degrees outside or inside, my bones start to hurt. Everything just hurts. Sometimes I can't walk. My thighs hurt. They feel sore, but I know I didn't do anything. I didn't work out. I didn't do nothing. They're just really sore and they hurt. And, my arms too. I sometimes can't write because it's real cold and it hurts, and it feels like it just shrivels up.
And do you know what type of trait you have?
Of sickle cell trait, right?
Yes. We know that we carry the S gene trait. I know for myself, when I had my exertion injury, I had rhabdomyolysis and renal failure. And when I actually found out, that was 2006. In 2010, a friend of mine mentioned that he had some muscle issues, but he had the sickle cell trait, which triggered me that I remember that I had that gene. So I went back to the LA Air Force Base because I was in the military, and I got the copy of that first physical that had the positive trait test. I took that to UCLA Medical Center, and they retested me again and showed me that I had 40% of my red blood cells was the S gene. And so that's kind of how they related it to the sickle cell trait exertion, and the rhabdomyolysis was triggered by the sickle cell trait gene.
Okay.
So, Dr. Bailey, can you share about what you know about sickle cell trait?
Yeah, there is an increasing body of evidence growing as we speak. Just every day something else comes up, suggesting that the trait is not asymptomatic. For a very long time, it was always assumed, medical community, they always said, it's just a trait, you'll never experience anything. That has turned out not to be the case. Of course, we know under extreme circumstances, people could go into full-blown crisis with the trait. But sometimes just normal day-to-day, temperature changing, stress, those same things that trigger a crisis in a diseased person can also trigger a crisis in the trait. Because you still have that one gene that's making S. So you still have that gene making some sickle cells in your body. And all it is a little bit tip it one way or the other. And we can do different things that causes us to tip it one way, and then before you know it, you're in crisis. My mother carries the trait, but she has had sickle in crisis before, and so has my sister. And so, definitely, it's not completely accepted in the medical community yet, but a lot of people are slowly coming around to the knowledge that even though you just have the trait, there can still be very real physiological problems associated with it.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. And does that affect your kidneys and your heart like the disease does?
Well, I can tell you when I had the rhabdomyolysis, it's muscle enzyme breakdown. So you can imagine muscle weakness, and unfortunately, the heart is a muscle. So of course, if you have these CPKs that are breaking down, I know mine was over 12,000, and I think normally at my age of 36. The normal range is like 115 or 150. So mine was over 12,000, which caused the renal failure because the toxins of the enzymes the kidneys can't filter it. So my kidneys were shutting down. And so I had muscle weakness and I had the kidney failure. All that are the symptoms of the sickle cell trait exertion. And a lot of people who don't catch it in time have collapsed and have cardiac arrest because, again, the heart is a muscle, so they have heart attacks. And because they're not being treated properly or even known to be treated properly. And so that's the end result sometimes is the sudden death from the heart attack.
You know, it's amazing. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, sometimes it takes that kind of jarring evidence
to
spur the medical community to really recognize the potential severity that exists. And perhaps as these cases, hopefully we won't be too many more cases.
I hope
but
not.
As Dr. Beebe says, the evidence has been mounting now to make a case to understand more about sickle cell trait and how that can have the effects that you experience.
Exactly. We're going to take a quick break. Please don't go anywhere. This is WDC Radio. I'm WDC. I got SCTD here. We're going to take a quick break. Thanks for tuning in, listening in. Don't go nowhere. LA Talk Live. We're more than just talk.
From the blood, sweat, and the tears shed every time I perform. And whenever you doing your thing, but I'm just as human as you. I just look good while doing it.
This is SCTD. You are now listening to WDC Radio. Stay tuned for more information on LA Talk Live.
It started out like a totally normal day.
I love you.
I mean, I guess I was a little sweaty and I was definitely sore. I thought I had gas. Turns out I was having a heart attack. Heart disease is the #1 killer of American women. So now I take care of myself and tell the other women in my life to do the same. Make it your mission to save your life and the lives of the women you love. Find out more from the American Heart Association at goredforwomen.org.
Hi, this is Michael Carson, inviting you to join me every Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific for See It Clearly. Join me as we discuss the topics of health, relationships, and the latest in life-improving information. So don't forget to tune in to See It Clearly Tuesdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, Radio Flag, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, or just watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Gloria Williams, inviting you to join me every Saturday, 5 p.m. Pacific, for the Branding Foot Nanny Show. Join me as I freestyle interview and discuss how to make your business a brand. So don't forget to tune in to the Branding Foot Nanny Show every Saturday, 5 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Radio Flag, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, or just watch and listen directly. Hi, this is Gloria Williams, inviting you to join me every Saturday, 5 p.m. Pacific, for the Branding Foot Nanny Show. Join me as I freestyle interview and discuss how to make your business a brand. So don't forget to tune in to the Branding Foot Nanny Show every Saturday, 5 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Radio Flag, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, or just watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live. I am the Foot Nanny, and we are more than just talk.
All right, welcome back. This is WDC Radio. I'm your host. I am WDC. I want to make sure the caller. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so I want to get your feedback from what you heard from myself and the doctor and Mr. Maletti.
Well, according to what you said and what your daughter said, we've been discussing this for quite a while.
Okay.
And I don't think many people realize how serious having the trait is.
Yes, ma'am.
And, you know, as we discussed, it's important to know what type of trait you have.
Exactly.
So, you know, the education part is what counts.
Yes.
Because if you're not educated as to what your illness is or what the trait is, you cannot make a proper decision as to your treatment options.
And ma'am, I shared my story. I've been sharing my story since was told I have the sickle cell trait, and my injuries. And I met a gentleman who was in the Army Reserves, and he had thalassemia trait, and he also had experienced some muscle issues from his thalassemia trait. And so when you say know what's in your genes, when we say that, because again, it's their red blood cells which carry oxygen, whether it's the C trait, thalassemia, and if those genes are triggered, there's possibly secondary type injuries possible. So,
yes. Can I ask Dr. Bailey a question?
Yes.
Yes.
How does sickle cell trait relate to polycystic kidney disease?
PKD. So they're not actually related. They're two very separate types of illness, two separate diseases. But the sickle trait, now I can't say specifically for the trait because they haven't done a lot of studies on it, but sickle cell disease has been known to cause kidney dysfunction. And I imagine if the disease will do it, then there are certain situations in which the trait will as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so people with the disease, in fact, I have a friend that's needing a kidney transplant now. They have kidney problems, but it's not specifically PKD. It isn't polycystic kidney disease.
But does that have any? Yes, but does that have anything to do with a brain aneurysm, or is it related?
Well, in aneurysms, again, the sickle cell is all about the blood, and the aneurysm is when there's a blockage and an infarct in the brain in those tiny blood vessels.
Mm-hmm.
So it is distinctly possible for a person with sickle cell to end up with an aneurysm. It's rare, but that could happen.
It's because wherever blood flows, you can have a crisis. Wherever blood flows.
And wherever blood flows, you can have problems.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for answering that question.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for calling.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. William, you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so what are we missing? Is there some? I want to make sure you get your message covered. We talked about the single person with the trait. We talked about a couple with both having the trait. What are we missing?
Understanding our health and well-being. The genes have a pronounced effect, and that effect can vary. As you've just discussed, you've heard different issues that can occur based on the presence of one or two of these sickle genes. So the idea is we need to know more about ourselves to take better care of ourselves and plan and for our children's health as well. The more you know, the better you are able to make good decisions. Very straightforward.
Thank you. Are you able to share your website so people can go and find out information from you, or if they're in New York, they can maybe call you and get some questions, get some answers? Are you able to share that?
There are several venues in New York for folks affected by sickle cell disease or interested to learn more if they have sickle cell trait. They can reach out to any one of the organizations that are present in the city, any one of the very fine sickle cell centers. We certainly have an excellent center at the Cohen Children's Hospital Medical Center of New York. So you can always reach out and find someone involved with sickle cell disease or trait if you have questions. Always reach out and find out. Knowledge is becoming more ubiquitous with the presence of the web. I have the opportunity to be on your show, which is emanating from California.
Exactly.
And we're here in New York. And you're doing really great work. The website looks great, and you're doing wonderful work spreading the awareness of sickle cell trait. The more we can all do to help enhance and benefit our understanding about these genes, they're kind of confusing to some.
Yes.
But those of us that have a little more understanding are certainly willing to share an understanding as the knowledge base builds.
Yes, thank you. And the listeners out there, my website I gave you, WDC on SCT.org. I am a sickle cell trait organization. That's my specialty. That's my lane. And you can find a lot of information about the trait on there. I do talk about the disease because that is one of the impacts and results of two people having the trait is the disease. So you can't talk about one without the other. So I have the trait and it affected me. So I share that. I've met a guy that was in the Air Force that collapsed from sickle cell trait exertion. I had Turquoise Thompson, who on the show last couple years ago, who was a UCLA track star, and she's going to the Olympics. And she had a sickle cell trait exertion in the locker room. So I've been finding people. You look at Ryan Clark from the Pittsburgh Steelers, who retired a few weeks ago, who he lost his spleen and gallbladder. So it's happening, and I see that, and I share my story, and I saw that, to me, there's aspects of sickle cell. There's so many different from the gene issues all the way to the mental health issues, and so there's so many different conversations and aspects of it, where I personally break it down to awareness, prevention, and education. And so I, being all over the place, it was like, what's the first bite of this apple? The first bite of this apple is awareness. So if you can just share your story and share information, that person will they can no longer walk around and say, I didn't know about that. Mm-hmm. You can no longer just say, oh, I don't know, sickle cell. No, you've heard that conversation now, and now you can educate yourself, but you can no longer walk around and say, I never heard about it. And I think that's the first bite of the apple, is the awareness.
Absolutely.
Well, William, again, thank you for coming and sharing. It's been a long time in the making. Like I said, you and I have been communicating back and forth on and off for the last couple of years. I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing. And hopefully this won't be the last time. Maybe we can create some stuff in these other areas about sickle cell aspects. And again, thank you for your time. Really, thank you. It's late over there, I know.
Sure enough, not a problem. It's never too late to educate.
Hey, I like that.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Bailey, anything you want to mention about sickle cell trait and all these? I think, Dr. Bailey, we should have a show next month just to talk about the different types of the genes and how they affect the bodies. You down for that?
I'm down for that. That sounds like a good idea.
Okay, so we'll
make the whole show.
Of course, no. I'm gonna we're gonna do the whole hour. So I'm looking maybe next Wednesday, the 1st of April. We should just start the month off with those different topics of those different type of genes. If you're down for that, if that's enough time, we could talk about
good.
that.
Let's do it.
Okay. So thank you so far for tuning and listening in. You just heard information about genetic counseling is very important. You can follow me at IamWDC on Twitter and Instagram, or the website for the nonprofit for sickle cell trait awareness and prevention is WDC on SCT.org. SCTD is on Twitter at WDC on SCT. She don't even know what her Twitter is. How are you going to be on social media? All right. So again, thank you. We're going to take this next topic to Advocacy Day. I want to thank Phyllis, got me involved in my first Advocacy Day experience, going to Capitol Hill and sharing our stories about, the legislative issues about sickle cell trait and sickle cell disease, and the bills and the resolutions and the funding issues. There's so many different levels of activism is kind of different than being an advocate. So Dr. Bailey, please share with the community what's coming up in April in D.C.
Absolutely. So April 15th through the 17th, we are going to on Capitol Hill. We're all going to go to Maryland. We'll have a briefing where we talk about our talking points. And then on the 16th, we'll head over to Capitol Hill. We will meet with senators, congressmen, the Black Congressional Caucus. We'll talk with health aides and get everybody on board to supporting sickle cell disease research, the sickle cell agenda, the Sickle Cell Treatment Act. We want the people in power to see us, to see our numbers, and to see that we're serious about this. We're ready for something to change in this disease.
Definitely.
So everyone, absolutely everyone is invited to come. Get online, Eventbrite, go and register to go to SCDAA, to the National Advocacy Day. If you don't know how to make appointments, or if you want some help making appointments with your congressman, you send me an email. I am at sccconsortium@gmail.com. It stands for Sickle Cell Community Consortium. And we'll make the appointments for you. And we'll all just get together, go out, and stomp the hill. But cover it with red. Cover it with sickle cell people making a difference.
Exactly. And I know my
Can
first...
you give that email again, please?
Oh, email, Dr. Bailey.
The email is sccconsortium@gmail.com.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And afterwards, on the 16th, we're going to have sort of our own little after party.
Yeah.
We're going to hear information about sickle cell. We're going to hear about Zickle and the the supplements going on. Everybody can talk about what they're doing in their state. And we're going to talk about how we can all get together and help each other as we push forward the sickle cell agenda. So that'll be back at the hotel. That's at the Sheraton, Silver Spring. And we'll have our own after party, talk about the day, and get to know each other.
And it's free to register. You just go online, register. It's free, but you have to make your own way out there with us. Like I said, I was going to share my first experience, 2010, with that event was really life-changing. Life-changing to go there to D.C. and walk through the Capitol Hill and talk to those legislative and their representatives, and they listen to us. And they actually educate them as well by sharing who we are and what we're up to. A lot of people, even there, were educated that didn't know too much about sickle cell. So it's very powerful. We need to come up and show up in numbers, and it's important. It's very important for our community to unite. Dr. Bailey?
That's it. Yes.
Is there anything that they can do in their own city?
Absolutely. And we're organizing some things now where city by city, state by state, we also want to go to your local state capital and make some things happen. So depending on what state you're in, if you want to send an email and tell me what state you're in, I can connect you to others in your state for your own local advocacy day on your local state hill. Definitely. We did ours in Georgia already. We've had some success. We were pushing for House Bill 1 to pass, and I found out today it passed.
Whoa.
So we just get together and make it happen.
Whoa. That's good. That's a good step.
That was awesome.
Let me see. Is our caller, you still there, caller?
Yes, I'm here. Can I give you my email?
Yeah, hold on. Go ahead.
Okay. The organization is the Sickle Cell Awareness Foundation Corp. So we just use the acronym for that. So it's SCAFCORPINT as S as in Sam, C as in cat, A as in Africa, F as in Frank, C as in cat, O as in octopus, R as in run, P as in Paul, I as in India, N as in Nancy, and T as in Tom at yahoo.com.
Okay, at Yahoo.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in what state?
New York.
You in New York?
Yeah.
So I would like to just highlight you. What do you do in your organization where you are? What do you do over there?
Well, we We work with William.
Oh, so you know
Yeah,
William. You know that guy?
Yeah, I do. And we do a lot of educational awareness. We do the walk. We do, health fairs, health forums. We do presentations. So we do the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
There's no funding for the testing,
Yeah.
for the electrophoresis.
I know.
So that we have to work on.
Yeah. I have that same issue
But,
here in California, man. It's the same. That's my struggle is to have that mobile van. And I'm launching it next year in 2016. I already got the budget for it written out.
Okay.
But I'm launching it because it's missing. It's a missing piece of our community, and I want to be able to bring that when I do my high school tours and my college tours. If those parents want to have their children tested that they don't remember, or they remember getting that document in the mail, I want to be able to give them that test. They do it all day long for the AIDS community, for AIDS testing, so it fits the same purpose.
Criteria, yes. It's so very important.
Yeah.
And I don't know why sickle cell is so far behind.
Yeah, well, we're here to change all of that.
Right, there you go.
We're here to change all of that.
Okay.
So thank you, ma'am, for calling and sharing and asking your questions. Dr. Bailey, anything you want to share or say before we?
No, just thank you for coming on and sharing your information. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Sure. And again, my name is Merlene Smith Sotelo.
Merlene, thank you. Thank you for calling.
Yes, and be blessed. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
And it's
Thank
a pleasure speaking with you guys.
Thank you.
Good night now.
Okay. So, SCTD. Let's talk. You and I went to San Bernardino Valley Community College, where I held my first sickle cell trait college course. 16 hours, 1 credit. My 13 students, who I say represent 13,000, because we each know at least about 1,000 people. So I'm sure that message is going to be carried on in their conversation. You and I went there to speak at an event that one of my students in my class actually invited me to. She's in charge of the campus groups, and they had a event for the young women called Girl Talk. And so I brought you with me as we shared to those young women. And you shared your, look at that. What was that like for you to be there in front of your peers? I've been to your school in your biology class and educated your camp,
Year.
So what was that like for you to now be out in the community at that event a few weeks ago?
Nervous. I was nervous, of course.
Yeah.
But, it was fun to, girls that know that about it and stuff, and it's good that people know now and instead of later, and just in case something happens to their child and they're trying to figure out what it was, now that you know what it is and stuff. And I'm glad I don't have the disease and I don't have to sit in a bed, in a hospital bed, because I know some people and that seems scary, and having all those stuff that you go through, and it's scary to me. Even though I don't have it still seems scary and stuff. And I'm thankful to walk, to walk around and not worry about it. And I'm sorry for everyone who does. I'm here to support and help. But I'm thankful for myself that I don't have to sit in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just timing, and just, I don't have to worry about it so much. I know when it's winter and during the summer how my body reacts, so I'm getting used to knowing the time points.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I know I'm gonna share. When you started, school and you took PE that 1 year, I was literally man, this girl, I gotta make sure you're drinking water, and all that. Just now that I'm aware of it. I have my concerns, but I can't make my concerns your concerns. Yeah. The best I could do is just give you the information and allow you to be aware of who you are and the genes you carry.
Yeah, I'm not going to have it stop me. I mean, it stops my body, but it doesn't stop me. Yeah. I mean, I still have to go to school. I mean, sometimes there's days where I just want to lay in bed, but I'm already at school, so I really can't just call home. I gotta go home. Why? Because I have this, and this.
Right.
What is that? I don't know what that is. Like, they can't pull. They don't know it. So how is my school gonna like believe me or pull me out of school? So I have to bear it and go on with my day and fight through it.
And I know one of the main symptoms I know with people with sickle cell trait and listening to our community is fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And you are tired.
Yes, I am.
All the time you are tired.
I am. I mean, yeah, there's days where I have my energy and stuff, but then there's days where I'm just like, just I want to lay in my bed, watch Netflix, just sleep, and I have my days.
Yeah. So thank you for coming and being bold and coming on the show with me.
You're welcome.
And just helping me educate the community. I believe that, when we went to that event to talk to those young women, I knew that me being a male, I mean, I can get so far to talking to females, but being a male, but I knew that if I brought you, that maybe you would be able to tip that scale over because there could be a relatedness. And we did get a message from one girl who's thankful because she had no idea of the impacts and the results of sickle cell trait. So out of that group, I mean, we spent the time there. It was worth it. If we reached that one girl, we reached that one person, it was worth that whole day of us waiting around to share our 5 or 10 minutes.
Yep, that hot day. It was hot.
So it's important. I believe that the women, you guys, you carry the children and you have the power to ask these questions. And we're going to make the men responsible as well to be educated and be able to respond to those questions. But I really believe that the women, you carry the babies.
And don't be afraid. If he says bye, say bye. Say bye back. Don't be afraid.
Oh, I thought you said that was messed up first.
Well, if the dude, it is, because why would you leave the girl who, let's say you guys are together and you're about to have a child, and then he finally figures out what it is and he says bye. Like, really? You're going to leave just because of that?
Be responsible?
Yeah.
Okay. I get you.
What?
So it's important. It's important. Sickle cell trait is an inherited gene. It has a purpose. It fights malaria. That's how the human body protected itself in survival, that mutated gene. So when a person got malaria in that parts of the country where malaria was present, they actually survived because of that S gene mutated, which killed off the malaria, which brought back new blood cells, and the person was able to survive. So in our country, in the United States, they say that about, the number, we're going to find out what's the count of this number because it's kind of, we think it's off. But they say 3 million. So I've heard 4 million. I've heard 2.5 million actually carry the sickle cell trait gene in the United States. But if you look across globally, the numbers are tremendous. 300 million possibly globally carry this one. We're just talking about sickle cell trait gene by itself. We're not talking about thalassemia trait. We're not talking about hemoglobin C trait. That's just the sickle cell trait gene. Globally, 300 million people carry this gene. It's not if you're just black. We're number one. Hispanic community is number 2. But you have to look at your bloodline, where your genes from. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European, Greek. You could have the sickle cell trait gene in your bloodline. If you look back in history and find out where your family came from, you could actually have the sickle cell trait gene. Or we call it the cousin, thalassemia. Also fights the disease as well, fights malaria as well. So please get tested. Go to WDC and SCT.org. Please get tested for sickle cell trait. The electrophoresis, it'll test the whole panel. You want to find out our campaign, what's in your genes. And you'll hear more about my other campaign called Stop Sickle Sex. Yes, it's called Stop Sickle Sex. Stop is awareness. Sickle is education. And the sex is prevention, because that's how the gene is inherited. We don't talk about the sex part, but we will in the near future. Thank you for tuning, listening in. This is WDC Radio. I'm your host. I am WDC.
Co-host SCTD.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram at IamWDC and at WDC on SCT. Shout us out. What's the count? Hey.
I'm the court, fast and slow. 25 years ago, the WDC, and it's me, your man Curtis Blow. From Dr. J to Michael Jordan to Kevin Durant, who leads the whole league in scoring. Dwayne Wade down in Miami, making a name. I love this game. To the NBA Hall of Fame, slam dunks, alley-oops, and the give and go. Vince Carter, Superman, and my man Carmelo and Rondo. Over in Boston with the big three, captivating audiences across the country and ruling the world like LeBron the
Thank you for tuning in to LA Talk Live, reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk. Stay tuned.
Yeah, B. Talk your shit.